Superhero fatigue. Is that a real thing, or is it a made-up word that the studios came up with in order to justify some of the bad movies that they've been making? Ladies and gentlemen, it is the one and only Broadway the Lyricist. I am back with another video, and if you like this type of content, hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel so that you get notified when I post new videos just like this. But without further ado, I am done with my begging. Does superhero fatigue exist? Is it something that we're really feeling, or is it the studios kind of pushing this narrative because of how poorly superhero films have been performing in the last couple years since the end of Avengers Endgame? That seems to be the timeline in which these things started. This is going to be a little bit of a longer video, so bear with me. I did write down some notes so that we can go over some of the things that could potentially be contributing to quote-unquote superhero fatigue. One of the things that I wrote down: studios seem to be focused on quantity over quality. They're trying to pump out as many projects as they can in order to tie them to a wider universe. After Avengers Endgame, Disney Plus comes out with all of these characters that have their shows. DC Studios did the same thing with HBO Max. All of a sudden, we have all of these shows that you have to watch in order to connect it to the wider universe and things of that nature. I feel like these studios stopped focusing on what's most important, which is character development, getting us to know these characters and love these characters. Marvel did a fairly good job at doing that. Before they got to Avengers, we started this decade-long journey. We followed Tony Stark. We saw him grow from this genius billionaire playboy to this selfless hero who essentially gave up his life in order to save the world. We got to watch that development. We got to watch Steve Rogers' development. We got to know each and every one of these individual characters before this team-up movie. And DC's response to this was to obviously come out with a Justice League film, which inherently is not a problem. Their only issue was they kind of sped past all of the character development on their side. We didn't get to fully develop Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman before we threw Cyborg in there and threw the Flash in there, and eventually we got a Flash movie. But the point being is that they sped past all of this potential character development that we could have had and these brilliant stories that we could have told before we created this team-up movie. It's going on in film just like how it's going on in sports. As opposed to developing the players that they have on their teams, now all of a sudden they're trying to put together these super teams as opposed to creating something good from the ground up. No one wants to watch 100 episodes of a character that they barely know just so that they can see that this was the character that was hinted in a post-credit scene from the movie. It sounds exhausting me just explaining it. Imagine how your casual or your average fan feels. I think these studios need to refocus on building up these characters from the ground up, really focusing on them and getting us to know and love these characters. That'll definitely put butts back in seats in the theaters. But as long as they keep doing this, I think they're going to continue to get what they've been getting. Just to kind of reiterate my first point again, studios have been focused much more on quantity over quality, and we got to get back to quality storytelling. Second thing I wrote down here was studios are not requiring their directors to know source material. This is a big one. Some justify that by saying we want these directors and these actors to take creative liberties so that they're not limited to what is on the page and things like that. I don't know if that's working for you. I don't think that that's working for you, the filmmakers, and it certainly is not working for us, the fans. We want these characters to be as close to the comic as you possibly can get them. It requires for studios and directors to kind of go off into the fantastical and really focus on why we love these characters. I think that it's okay for directors to have a voice and for them to take certain liberties with these characters. I think that that's okay. I just think that if you make changes that fundamentally change these characters is where we run into the issue. And for example, just because it's fresh off the top of my head, Jen Walters, She-Hulk, she becomes the She-Hulk, and Bruce, her cousin, is trying to teach her how to manage her anger and things like that, how to basically keep her anger in check so that she doesn't just Hulk out. And of course, the infamous line where she says that she's had to control her emotions infinitely more than he has because she's been catcalled in the street, or when a male colleague of hers is trying to like mansplain something to her. This is why she controls her anger infinitely infinitely more than Bruce. It was such a disrespect to Bruce Banner. It was such a disrespect to the Hulk character. Bruce literally at one point tried to off himself. His father was abusive. He's had to learn how to deal with his anger far longer than she has, and it was just a slap in the face to this character. We had to sit there and we had to watch him be disrespected. You're doing a disservice to the legacy characters, and you're doing it to prop up another one, and it doesn't make any sense. It didn't have to come at the expense of minimizing Bruce's experiences and the hardships that he went through in order to get the Hulk under control, including Megan Thee Stallion in the show. That was a choice. It didn't hit well with a lot of people. It was pretty inconsequential to me. I didn't really care for the show to begin with, so by the time it got to that episode, I wasn't even checked in order to be checked out, if I'm being fully honest. And also, the last episode of the show went into this whole fourth wall breaking soliloquy about Kevin Feige, and it was supposed to be self-aware. Obviously, the show didn't work. They were not greenlit for a season 2. Same with Disney Star Wars. You have these nightmare stories of Kathleen Kennedy allowing these directors to come in and take liberties with these beloved characters, not require them to know source material. It has definitely come back to bite them in the butt. Pow! So long as you're taking these liberties and it's making the characters better and it's making the story better, we have absolutely no issue with that. And I'm sure I speak for all fans when I say that. Be as creative as you want to be, but not at the expense of these characters and changing who they are. And the Fantastic Four is going through this right now with some of the changes that they're making. The Silver Surfer is such an iconic character. Everyone's waiting for Norrin Rad, and you give us Shala Ball, and it's reported that the reason is because this universe is going to die anyway, and we're going to bring Norrin Rad later on. We haven't had a good Fantastic Four movie yet, and I think that's pretty safe to say. For you to take the chance of coming out with a Shala Ball Silver Surfer as opposed to the Norrin Rad Silver Surfer, you're creating a divide before your movie even comes out. And let's not even talk about casting choices and things like that, because there's people that still don't care for Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards. I'm not necessarily one of those, but I have stated in past videos that I would have liked to have seen somebody else in the role. That's just another thing that's working against your film. Now we're hearing rumors that they held public screenings of the film and the reports have been meh to mid. This is not good, guys, especially just coming off of the meh to mid Thunderbolts, aka the new Avengers. I don't think that Marvel Disney can afford another meh film. Another thing that's being reported is that the Thing is being underutilized. Reed's power set is being underutilized, which I had actually suspected in one of my other videos that I posted. And minor spoilers here, they are pushing Sue Storm to be the hero of this film. It's definitely the indication that these trailers are giving, but supposedly her and baby Franklin are going to be the heroes. They are the ones who are going to save the day. They are the ones who conquer the threat of Galactus, and it's going to be through Sue Storm and the baby. Is there an issue with this? Not necessarily, but it's coming at the cost of Reed taking a backseat. If you couple that with some of the things I mentioned earlier, another thing that I forgot to mention was how Johnny Storm is not your comic book accurate Johnny Storm. He's not this kind of womanizing playboy that takes some time to develop into the responsible Johnny Storm that we know him to be. Kind of completely eliminated this character arc, and you eliminated his growth, trying to create this modernized Johnny Storm that's in touch with his feelings and things like that. All of those things are cool if you've had time to develop him as a character. Point number 3 that I wrote down is internal conflicts within these studios are causing movie delays, cancellations. Perfect example is Blade. You announced that you're going to do this Blade film, and it seems like from the jump, nobody could get on the same page in terms of what the story is going to be. Apparently, there were like 4 different scripts. It was rumored at one point that he wasn't even going to be the lead. And then to everyone's surprise, Wesley Snipes' Blade comes out in the Deadpool film, and he says the infamous line, "There's only one Blade and there's only ever going to be one Blade." Was not only hilarious, but prophetic at this point, because it seems like we're not going to get another Blade the way that Marvel has been unable to develop this story. And the latest reports now is that Bob Iger and Kevin Feige are kind of not seeing eye to eye in terms of how they want to move forward with these films. Now, this is what's being reported. I obviously am not in the studio, so I have no idea what's going on, but this is what they're saying. We as fans are kind of like these kids that are in the middle of watching their mom and dad kind of go at it, and we're just like, simply look at what has worked and what hasn't and meet somewhere in the middle. Obviously, the only people that pay for bad storytelling is us, the fans. But in this case, we actually don't pay because people are not showing up. It's being reported on the DC side. They did some early screenings of Superman and they're going back to do reshoots in order to take out, quote unquote, some of the goofiness of the movie. Now, some people like myself from the jump were questioning whether or not James Gunn was going to be able to handle a Superman project because of previous projects like Guardians of the Galaxy, Peacemaker, things like that. It kind of confirms some of the fears that fans were having James Gunn at the helm of a Superman film. And that's outside of things like people still not even liking the suit. The suit is what it is. I've made my peace with it. A lot of people have also, but there are some fans that just haven't even gotten past the suit. To hear this being reported as well, it's like, oh, come on, guys. It kind of leaves a sour taste in fans' mouths. And admittedly, it justifies some of the concerns that some of the fans have. I'm still rooting for these films. I want them to do well. But all in all, ladies and gentlemen, the original question was, is there such thing as superhero fatigue? I don't know for sure. But what I do know is that all of these things that I went over are certainly reasons why people are tired of superhero movies. They're not sick of the superhero genre. They're just sick of poor storytelling. They're sick of directors and writers injecting their personal politics into films. I agree with people that say that they go to the movies to escape these things, so they don't want to see it injected into their films. But this is my favorite part of making videos. I want to hear from you guys. Are you just over superhero movies altogether, or do you agree with some of the points that I was making in terms of studio interference, maybe some writers and creators taking too much liberties with some of the characters that we love? Whatever your thoughts are, comment below and let me know. Thank you so much for your patience. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. If you were able to make it to the end, hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. Peace.
Sometimes I feel they want to hold us back, even though I told my homie they don't really owe us jack. Nah, try to keep up with the Jerry Joneses, but we Dak should be feeling